Hello again.
Hello.
Um,
Oh, I'd much rather go over to your house and are you hearing me?
yes,
I'd much rather come over to your house than go to Parks Library.
Well, that just means I have to go get the things at Parks Library, which probably I'll end up having to do anyway.
You
And
want help?
I don't know if I'll need help. I have no idea what's there. George has a brag. I don't know if you saw that. And I
Yep,
did
I got
receive,
that down.
I did receive a check from the Sheerholtzes, and I don't know for the brag. So Sheerholtzes may want brag too. Hello, George.
Okay. I don't have a lot of brags, but I think that if we keep them short, that'll give the chief a lot of time to talk. And I don't know if you guys were in on the community conversation with both the chief of police and the chief of Iowa State University law enforcement, but I thought it was they did a really good job. And it was, I think that it's the first of many conversations that need to happen and will continue to happen. And I applaud the local chapter of our NAACP for getting it going. I got ink all over me. All right.
I think I'm going to go to screen share and bring up the slides.
Okay. We got 10 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and get myself a drink of water.
All right. Welcome, Charles.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're
Hello.
anxious to hear from you. Jean will be doing the introduction. We have the welcome song, just trying to admit people here for the meeting. We'll get started with a few announcements. We're going to do a virtual brag bucket, and then Jean will introduce you. So you'll be on in about, I would guess, 20 minutes or so.
All right. So I have some slides I'd like to share.
Okay,
And
we can do that.
screen sharing is disabled at this point.
Well, I will find. I have mine up, but let me see if I can. Figure out a way to.
I'm not tech savvy, but I think you have to stop sharing yours. Oh,
Yep. And then when I do mine, I think then I can allow you to upload yours. So,
do you want to try it, Chuck, just to see?
Sure.
let me see if
Does
I
that work,
can.
Karen?
Yep. Okay, try it now. Should be able.
Hey,
There you go.
what? It's a winner.
There you go. We're able to
Working?
do it. Yep, it's working.
All right.
So,
All right. Great. Thank you.
so you can, if you want, you can leave that up, or I can put ours up because most of us know the welcome song.
Well, and we're all going to mute, so
Yeah.
we can at least lip sync.
Don't know why that.
I like your sense of humor, Joe.
I'm not sure Don can see it. Hi, Liz. We meet again.
Don Goring, you might want to look in the chat box down below. see the message that Jeff gave you.
Are you talking to me that Jeff sent me a message?
No, he sent it to Don Goring.
Well, I sent it to
It
everyone.
was to everybody, yeah. But
I've got it.
you got it.
Lay it on me.
That's the spirit. It's noon right now, but I think we'll wait just a couple of seconds to see if there's others that jump on.
Yeah, they're getting there. Slowly.
So Jeff, did you have a good meeting? That would be presumptuous of me to say it since I was leading it. So I'll let those who attended respond on my behalf.
It was a very good meeting, very productive.
I'm sorry I missed it, Jeff, and hope to be there the next one.
We'll put you down for 5 committees.
Well, that's,
No, that's discrimination.
I just am lucky that since I wasn't there, that I didn't get elected president of Rotary or something.
I think she just nominated herself for chair-elect.
All righty. I know there'll be others that join, but I want to get it going because I know that the chief of police has a program that will take up the majority of the program time, and I want to save time for questions. So I'm reading from home. So our internet went down at the office, so I had to scoot home. I do have a golden retriever if you do hear her barking in the background. So I apologize up front, but welcome to the June 15th, 2020 Rotary Club of Ames meeting. If you're able to mute your own mic, that would be great for background noise or back feed. And I hadn't heard, but is there anybody in our Rotary family that we need to keep in our thoughts today, especially today? Hearing none, I think that we want to continue to keep in our thoughts the inequities that are prevalent in our community and have been prevalent in our community for a long time. But I also want you to keep in your thoughts how positive things can be if we all work together. So let's just take a moment, please. Thank you. I'm going to mute my mic after I say this because you don't want to hear me sing. So if you don't mute your mic, people will hear you sing. But I'm going to turn it over to Louis for the welcome song.
I'm here and we're ready to go. We'll sing. Welcome to you from Ames Rotary, Nevada, London, or Gay Prairie, from far off lands or the USA. We're glad that you are here today. Come back again whenever you're near. Join us and then we'll make it clear. Around the world you will always be welcome at Rotary.
Beautiful as always. So before we get to the brag bucket, I have just one announcement. We received notification from our fellow Rotary member, Drew Camp, that he has accepted the president and CEO position at the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce. His last day at our Ames Chamber is Friday, June 19th. Drew's departure from the Chamber and the community and Rotary is certainly a loss to all of us. As you know, Drew was also serving on the Rotary Board and was about to step into the role of President-elect designee. I don't know if Drew is on the call, but if you know Drew and have his email, just let him know that he will be missed. In addition, for some reason, he is taking his wife, Sunny, and their new baby, Liam, with him. So we wish Drew, Sunny, and Liam all the best. And it breaks my heart that we won't get to see that little guy grow up here in Ames. The brag bucket, as you know, we have not had our brag bucket since February, I believe. So we've missed March, April, May, and June. So as Rotarians who are willing to step up to the brag bucket, this helps our scholarship fund. Keep in mind that you're bragging for 4 months, which means your brag contribution should be 4 times as much. However, the amount of time you take should not be 4 times as much. So I want to open it up first to Susie Shearholtz. I don't know if John's on the call, Susie, but I know that we did get a gift from the Shearholtzes. I didn't know if you wanted to brag or not. All right, she's forfeiting that. Thank you very much, John and Susie. Jenny Legates, I know I saw you earlier, so I'm going to wait for you to unmute so you can do your brag.
Well, I announced to my board at the Mutual Insurance Association of Iowa earlier this year that I thought it was time to retire, and we settled on the date of January 15th of next year. But my big brag is we have hired a super stupendous replacement for me, and he will be starting July 1. So I get 6.5 months to train him. So I have a nice big check to send into the foundation.
Thank you. John Christie, I know you're on the call.
Yes, at one of the last virtual meetings, the name Ray Mustin was mentioned. My brag is I likely knew Ray before you did as a club member and as a district governor, 6,000. In the early 90s, I was a doctoral student down at the University of Iowa, and I was in the department of which Ray was a faculty member, and Ray was my advisor and actually mentored me through the program and through my dissertation. So I just wanted to share that.
Very cool.
Gene, I'd like to, this is Jeff here. I'd like to, and I'm going to state the amount. I'd like to make a gift of $25. 20 of that is recognition of the 20 members of our club that are signed up and active now on our Centennial Committee. And my grandson is 5, graduated from preschool. And if you see all of his photos, you would think he graduated from Iowa State. They're all from all around campus. But again, thank you to our Rotary Club members who have all stepped forward to help us with Centennial programming planning. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. George.
There we go. Greetings, everyone. My good news just occurred over the weekend in the Iowa legislature. For 2 years, we've been trying to get a couple of human trafficking bills passed, and they finally passed. 2 bills passed over the weekend. It was a shortened year and because of COVID-19, and it's a miracle that these got through, but they had bipartisan support. The first bill very much relates to our Rotary Club. 6 years ago, you might remember, we funded a human trafficking YSS grant and Network Against Human Trafficking. And they started and wrote a hotel motel employee training manual. Now the Iowa legislature has passed a hotel motel employee human trafficking training grant that, or not grant, but bill that now pushes all hotels and motels to ensure that all their employees are trained on how to recognize and how to report suspected human trafficking. So that's a big step forward, and it had very, very good bipartisan support. The other bill is a little bit of a disappointment, but we've been trying for some time to get the penalty for trafficking minors up from 10 years to 25 years. They wouldn't, the legislature wouldn't do it, but they instead passed something else. It's called Continuous Sexual Abuse of a Child, House File 2554, so that repeated proof of continuous sexual abuse of a child through trafficking can now bring up to 50 years. So it's not under the heading of human trafficking, it's under abuse of a child. So that's very good news. There were 5 traffickers that got 10-year prison sentences last year for trafficking minors, mostly through hotels and motels. They should have gotten more time than that. Finally, I also serve on the Commission for Tobacco Prevention and Control, and we last night got the legislature, Senate File 2268, that all smoking and vaping purchases of any of those products the age range is now 21 in Iowa for vaping and smoking products. So that's going to really reduce smoking among minors and vaping.
Very good. Thank you, George. I know that
Really
you've
happy.
been a champion for all of these things for many years. So thank you, thank you, thank you on behalf of all of us. I have one for United Way. Just wanted to let you know that in March, when COVID-19 shut us down, we're ready to do our Live United food drive, which included about 80 businesses. We weren't able to do that, so we did a virtual drive and asked people to contribute financially, and then we were going to support all of our food pantries, which there are about 22. We had a goal of $20,000. We exceeded that by $25,000. So $45,000, we're pushing it out to the food pantries, the small 1-2 person shops, and the other larger ones as well throughout the county. You heard Kristen tell about the ISU pop-up food pantry too, which is now included on that as well. In addition, we had what we called our COVID emergency fund, which is now switching to a recovery. And we had no idea what we were going to raise at that point, but we are, I feel like Rotary with Polio Plus, we're this close to $100,000 raised in that fund. Primarily the biggest need that we're seeing, and we will continue to see, are for utility and rent assistance, because with people not being able to have income coming in, it's hard to pay their rent. So that's the big push there. So I have my Rotary contribution ready to mail. It's my last postage stamp as well. I want to open it up. Liz, Beck, you want to go ahead?
Okay, I want to brag about 3 things. First, Jeff, thank you for taking on the Centennial Commission. That was terrific. And we had a great meeting. Second of all, we interviewed our potential Rotary Global Grant Scholar. She's just terrific. So we're going to be moving forward with her. And third, I am so incredibly grateful that my older son, who was in riot gear on the front lines in Minneapolis, worked for 3 weekends, worked with protesters who were peaceful, who respected him, who he respected them, and everybody did what they were supposed to do and understood what happened if they chose not to. And he's home safe, and I am really grateful. Thank you.
All right. I know that our district governor-elect, Steve Dakin's on the call, and he would like just a couple seconds too to make a comment. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, thanks. This is for 6,000, District 6,000. As of today, it is official that the Rotary Club of Denison has joined our district. And so we welcome them. They're a very active club over there. and will be a great addition to 6,000. So I wanted to make an announcement.
Thank you for that. We're growing. That's remarkable. We're happy about that. I'll give you a couple seconds to unmute if anybody has anything, but otherwise we'll move into our program. All right.
Hi.
Oh, go ahead, Carol.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't get to you by 9 a.m. this morning, but Roger and I celebrated a very quiet 50th anniversary last Sunday. So I have a check ready for $50 to come to Rotary in recognition of our anniversary.
Congratulations. All right. So I ask everybody to mute your mics again, if you haven't done that already. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go introduce our today's speaker. In addition to, well, it's my pleasure to introduce the Chief of Police, Dr. Charles Cychosz. Chuck has served as the Chief of Police in Ames since 2007. In addition, and prior to his service as the Ames Police Department and ISU Police Department, he is a former faculty member at Iowa State University and assistant to the Vice President for Student Affairs. He has been involved in a variety of programs affecting young people in higher education and student life, and most recently through his involvement in police agencies. In the course of earning a bachelor's degree in community health, he was a student intern during the swine flu outbreak of 1976. After earning a master's degree in community health and teaching at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, he moved to Iowa State University and has been in Ames ever since. He has managed and evaluated several local and regional substance abuse prevention and health promotion activities and published research finding on health education and violence prevention. He is an active in the city manager's executive leadership team, the Iowa Police Executive Forum, and the International Association of Chiefs of Police. If you did not get a chance to be on the call last Thursday when the NAACP hosted both the chief and Iowa State chief, it was very well done, and I applaud you, Chuck, for all those efforts. I'm going to mute and let you take over.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Jean, can you give me the thumbs up if you're hearing me okay and seeing the message? And all right, great. Thank you. So I'm really pleased to be able to visit with you during these difficult times. I think they're important conversations we have to have across the community, and this is one of a number of places where we can say some things that need to be said and begin our conversations about these issues. First though, I want to make a couple of comments about COVID-19. It has been a challenge for all of us. I'm proud of our employees who stayed on the front lines and stayed in the community and did their work every day and took some steps to protect themselves so that the limited number of people we have as 911 communicators and police officers remained available to you and were able to respond to your calls. The other dimension of this COVID-19 experience that has been very striking for me is how difficult this has been for some people in our community. Homeless individuals have really struggled during this time, and those folks with mental and emotional difficulties have been hit hard by the social isolation, by the fear and uncertainty, and by the sudden and dramatic change in the way we live. And so, Gene Cressy did the introduction to this, but I just have to tell you, I had officers in my office every day talking about the challenges that they were encountering with folks on the street and wringing their hands over what we could do for them. And so if you've ever questioned the value of United Way, if you've ever seen the importance of their work in action, this is one of those times where we need human service agencies and we need the support of organizations like United Way. Police department can help, but we don't provide the scale of solutions that are necessary for some of these problems. So, you know, remember those less fortunate, remember those who are struggling, because this has really hit them hard. And Gene, thank you and your crew and in your agencies for stepping up and adapting to this change and getting back out there and getting after it. There's more to do. So George Floyd, this is a shocking event for any of us to watch. It is a horrible thing, and it's been a heartache for people who wear the uniform and try to do that job in our communities. To watch someone else in a uniform kill someone in that manner, with that demeanor, I think we're all grieving over what has happened and causing us to step back and question assumptions, question our work, and recommit to some of the things that must be done to make our communities better. I think it is important for you to understand that that event hit officers emotionally. They feel that pain, and they feel it intensely because they have to wear that uniform every day and try to do that work. So as Gene mentioned, Chief Newton and I talked in some more detail on a forum last week, sponsored by the NAACP. That will be an ongoing series of programs, conversations about what we can do, what we are doing, and what needs to be done. I encourage you to look that up and listen to some of these conversations in more detail if you get a chance. So what's going on locally? I want to say a few things about your police department and about our priorities and commitments and what's important to us in today's world. So first of all, let me begin with how we see our mission in this community. We see our work as fundamentally centered around two areas. First of those is relationship building, and the second of those is problem solving. Relationship building first, because that is, this is an education community. This is a community that is changing all the time. This is a community with lots of young people. And problem solving is I think a better approach for officers to take to the street. Law enforcement or writing a ticket or something may be one tool, but we go out looking for solutions to the problems that people call us with. And frankly, writing a ticket or making an arrest isn't always the right solution to the problems that our community faces. So we expect more from our staff, hence the problem solving commitment. We do a lot of outreach, and we do a lot of outreach to young people and to college students. We believe that face-to-face dialogue about their fears, their face-to-face dialogue about their questions, educating international visitors about policing in this community, in this country, are an important part of our work. And so officers across the board invest time and energy in making those connections, having a presence at those events, and building rapport with the community that we serve. For a decade or more, we've also had a special group of Safe Neighborhoods team mentors who work with us and our Safe Neighborhoods team in doing outreach and developing our cultural connections and our cultural understanding. This community is rich in diverse attitudes, experiences, cultures, and backgrounds. And we hire people who are interested in those things, but we also have been privileged to have these mentors who are willing to take some of their time and work with us in those outreach activities. Work with us, sometimes on the street late at night, seeing people they don't normally see. And so that's been a good experience for us, a good experience for a community, and I think an important illustration of the kind of outreach activity that we engage in. It's probably a good point for me to also reinforce the fact that Iowa State University police follow a similar path, engage in similar activities and principles. We're very much alike, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, Chief Newton may actually be on this program, but we're sensitive to the fact that we share our efforts in this community, and so some of our outreach, especially to students and campus populations, is a partnership and a shared activity. You shouldn't need a policy to understand that what happened to George Floyd is wrong. Now, our policy says it's wrong, but if you're a human being, what you saw happen to George Floyd, it should be self-evident that that's wrong. And if you're a police officer for the city of Ames, it's clearly evident that that's wrong. And tell you there were internal conversations about what was wrong with that incident, even before we were able to produce an official statement on that fact. I think it's really important for you to understand our sensitivity to that and the effort we put into hiring the right kind of people. We don't want a person who could do that to be part of our organization. So I'm going to take a moment and walk you through the police hiring process. This is a topic that will get some scrutiny in coming weeks. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it should. Who we hire for these jobs is critically important. We have to follow a civil service hiring process. So one of the frustrations for me is if I have a young person walk into my office and say, I really want to be a police officer and I'm prepared for it and I'd be good at it, I have to say, well, then in order for me to really spend time talking to you as a candidate, we've got to get you qualified on a civil service list, because I can only hire police officers from a qualified civil service list. We recruit pretty heavily from local colleges. We're an education community, so we look for people who value education and understand that our population in this community shares in that value, is committed to that. We think it helps us relate to, understand, and be a part of what this community is committed to. But to really get on the list, the first step for you is to come to a scheduled interview process or a scheduled testing process. You have to meet the basic fitness test. You have a writing and arithmetic test that you have to complete. And then we do an interview with all candidates, and that interview is focused on their values, their view of policing, their motivation for their interest in us, issues of integrity, as well as issues of diversity and inclusion, just because of the importance of that in policing and the importance of that in this community. People who do well in those interviews then can make it onto a civil service list, and we have the privilege of talking to them further about the potential of becoming a police officer. With the city of Ames, people who are interested and eligible can move to the next step, which we call a chief's interview, but it's really a command staff conversation with a candidate, trying to understand them better and trying to understand their motivation and interest in Ames. I meet every single person that we hire, and I review the screening and test results on every single person that we hire into this pool. And there are some people who don't advance beyond that interview. maybe issues of attitude or maturity or communication that they need to work on before we think they're eligible for further consideration. Those who advance will go into a detailed background investigation. We will, we'll be talking to their high school principal, their mom and dad, brothers and sisters, places they've worked. We are often sitting in the kitchen of their parents' home, visiting about their childhood experiences. We roam through social media accounts and social media postings and really spend a lot of time to understand the values and experiences that this person would bring to a potential police officer position. And frankly, we lose people at this stage because they don't meet this standard. Our test on that background is understanding these people may come to your home. They may come to you during a very difficult time in your life. We want them to be individuals of character who you can trust during those difficult times. Those who pass that background move to a psychological testing stage. We do some testing that you cannot do as a typical employer. We do a MMPI, for instance, diagnostic psychological examination. We look for bias, propensity to violence. We look at their coping style. We look at their resilience. We look at their ability to handle the stress of this job. We look at the way they view other people. Pardon me. And our psychologists spend some time following up on the test and providing us feedback about whether that person could be expected to perform effectively in the position. And again, we lose people at this stage. We have people the psychologist recommends against hiring for various reasons, and they drop out of our testing process. We move to a polygraph test. Every candidate for officer position here gets a lie detector examination. Generally about a 90 to 120 minute test. We review everything on the background. We review issues that have come up in the background, psych testing, or other parts of their employment. And again, we're looking for integrity. We're looking for bias. And we're looking for propensity to violence. And I'm trying to underscore those issues of caring and compassion that we're looking for in the community. And finally, a physical exam, which they have to pass. And there are some state requirements they have to pass in this, but it's a fairly rigorous process. People take up to about 6 weeks to go through that selection process. And by the end of it, it's not perfect, but we know an awful lot about the candidate. And we have some confidence that we are identifying candidates who have a pretty good match to the demands of this job in the city of Ames. If they're hired, they move on to employment in training sequence. I'll talk about the training in just a moment, but for those who are thinking about the job and thinking about candidates on the job, I want to make a couple of points here about how we handle complaints. We have a shift supervisor on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We will take complaints by email, by phone. We like to talk to the person who's complaining directly so that we understand the real source of what they're dissatisfied with or unhappy about or what they feel was wrong. But a supervisor will take that complaint and we investigate every complaint. We provide a written report of that complaint. We have car video and body cam video. So many times the complaint investigation includes a review of the video interactions that someone may be concerned about. Complaints are a rich source of information about things that we could do better. Complaints lead us to better training. Complaints lead us to better policy. For instance, an employee may be doing something that they were trained to do in a special training session we sent them to. And we hear from the community member that they're unhappy about something the officer did, and we find out that there was a training experience that led to that. And we have to intercept that and keep that training from being passed on to others in the organization, or keep people from moving to that training experience. So it's not only performance-based corrections, but we try to look at the organization and our training and policy if somebody calls this to our attention. And we take action if it's a personnel matter, and that action is up to and including termination from time to time. So training, really important question that people ask about frequently. We do a lot of training in the Ames Police Department. For the new police officer candidate, their law enforcement academy training includes some skill development and an effort to develop the knowledge base necessary to function as a police officer, but it also includes a variety of training experience designed to make them more effective communicators, build better relationships, and understand populations and people that they might not have worked with in the past. So I just picked out a couple of examples of training segments that occur at the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy, and the recent titles on those: cultural competency, additional section on diversity and special populations, and then a deeper dive on principles of fair and impartial policing. So the academy experience, about 16 weeks, pooled with officers from around the state, getting a state-mandated series of training experiences to try to provide a common knowledge base for police officers around the state. Within the department, we do a great deal of training as well. And for a decade or more, we have been doing training internally on helping our officers understand the diversity of the Ames community, the diversity of attitudes, cultures, and experiences that our citizens bring to us. And I listed some of the department-wide trainings that we've done in recent years on this slide. I'm going to call your attention to a couple of those because I think they're really important. Our Fair and Impartial Policing series has an emphasis on implicit bias. And we've done implicit bias training with all of the officers, and we've done additional implicit bias training with supervisors, both before and after the officer training. And then we've done some implementation work on screening implicit bias with our dispatchers and our supervisors. And it's been a rich and valuable training experience for us, and one that I expect will continue in the department. As we hire new people who've not had that foundation with us, we put them together in a group, and they too experience that training as they try to get up to speed and do the job well for the city of Ames. We actually have a certified fair and impartial policing trainer. We sent one of our sergeants out to take a more extended course and to really become more adept in understanding the research in this area and help communicate that topic with credibility to our officers and to our supervisors. The other thing we're really, I think, finding valuable is a series of conversations on procedural justice, principles of fairness, transparency, giving voice to concerns of our community. Those are principles that resonate with our officers. They understand that respect is a two-way street, and that respect is earned, and that we have a responsibility and an opportunity to try to earn the respect of our community. And so these trainings are valuable to us. They're valuable, I think, to the community as we try to go forward during these difficult times. So I appreciate the city's support for our training experiences. These are not inexpensive, and yet I think it's critical that we make this kind of investment in the people you have as police officers for working for you. Be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge that that the officers get some individual development. It's not just training that we do as a group. I've just listed a few of the training titles over the last couple of years that individual officers have been through. And I won't read those to you, but please know that in addition to that foundation that we provide for everyone in the department, we have officers who seek out additional training and have these additional training experiences, and that too enriches our capabilities. And you know, officers get better when we look at their work. We probably all get better if somebody looks at our work, right? So if you're a police officer, your cases are reviewed by a supervisor. That may include the reports that you write, that may include video that is attached to that case, and that case review also includes feedback from the prosecutors for that individual officer. So their work gets a lot of scrutiny up and down the line, and in some cases, particularly for officers who are learning the craft, there's a lot of feedback that comes to them out of that process. I mentioned complaints already, and complaints are important to us, they're valuable to us, and the complaint review process gives us a chance to look at how we might have done better in that citizen interaction. Number one issue that comes to us is discourtesy. People feel the officer is not courteous, and that's a training, coaching, and confidence issue that we have to work on really with all of our new officers. And then finally, we go through a more formal performance review, quarterly reviews, and an annual formal performance review with each officer. You know, the final element in this slide is really important. We have contact with a lot of people in this community every day. And for all the classroom training that we do, the people of this community teach us a lot every single day as well. We look for officers who want to be in Ames. We look for officers who want to work in the kind of community that Ames is. And our officers embrace those opportunities to make connections. And the community in return has been kind enough to really spend time with us and help us understand their needs, their interests, their concerns better. So we learn every day. So as we've reflected on the death of George Floyd, we've reflected on our efforts. I think we all recognize there's more to do. Our outreach and community engagement is critically important and has to continue. We have to expand our transparency and self-examination. We've got to find the time to publish more of our data, to make that more accessible to the community. We have to ensure that our policy and oversight is comprehensive and broad and adequately reviewed. I might tell you, we recently moved to a policy series that gets national review as part of the process of creating police department policies. So we now have a policy bank and guiding principles that are coming to us after a level of national review. Helps us keep current, helps us stay ahead of trends in the business, and ensures that our policies are current and effective and compliant with the law. You know, our commitment to community policing really has to be manifest in our individuals. We have to make sure that we're hiring people who are committed to that. And we've got to find a way to give them the time to connect with our community. Officer wellness is an area we've had to refresh our commitment to. Nobody wants a burned out, cranky, tired, angry police officer coming when you call. You need somebody who's emotionally healthy and someone who has a reservoir of compassion for people. And we've got to make sure that we look after our folks. We have a much more robust wellness commitment, and we've developed a peer support program, and we are reinforcing our commitment to officer wellness. Recruitment and training. These are tough times to recruit police officers. These are difficult jobs. You heard Liz Beck talk about her son working in Minneapolis as a police officer. Liz, we're always recruiting good police officers for the city of Ames. But you all need to help us. Ames is a good place to live. And we need police officers from time to time. It can't just be the police chief and the police commanders who are going out looking for the kind of people you want to work here. And the kind of people you want as police officers are not just criminal justice majors. They're teachers, they're social workers, they're nurses' aides, they're wait staff in restaurants. They're people who care about people. They're people who bring that compassion I talked about in the beginning. We'll teach them the policing business, but it's hard for me to teach them to care about other people and to bring that compassion and that service ethic. So when you see those people, I want you to think of me, think of the department, and think about the enormous good they can do in the community from this position as a police officer, and send them down. We'll talk to him, and we'll explain the hiring process and try to get them in the pipeline. And then finally, I think our processes and our self-examination have to also look at how our victims experience the criminal justice system. Criminal justice system as a whole is struggling right now. I'm not sure it's a great process, and there's a lot of room to fix it. We're working on a grant right now to pilot diversion of some of our dependent folks into opioid addiction treatment as an alternative to the criminal justice system. We need to expand and support good diversion programs. We need to help keep children out of the criminal justice system. We need to try to support early dispute resolution. But those are community-wide efforts that we all have to be a part of. The police can't do this alone. We'll carry our weight, we'll do our part, but you can't just leave it to us. You have to help us get these things done in the community. I'm hoping to bring forward a more visible plan for racial equity and justice. Some of the things that we're doing aren't well articulated. We need to explain them better to the community, and we need to put some of these things on display. And we also need to add to our commitment to make sure that we are moving forward during these difficult times. So there's a great deal of work to be done, and I look forward to reporting back to you as we work through these challenges in the coming weeks and months.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. I've got several questions that have been chatted to me, so I'm going to go ahead and try to take them one at a time. So if you need me to repeat them, let me know. But the first question is, how does a rap sheet of an individual play into the attitude of a police officer when they show up responding to a call? And the secondary question for that is, how does this impact the escalating the situation or de-escalating the situation?
So what's the first part of that question?
How does a rap sheet, that's not my words, so if somebody's current or previous encounters with the law enforcement, how does that impact how the officers respond?
Well, I'm not sure that the piece of paper or the history as a document impacts the interaction. You know, there's some people that we know really well in this community, and we interact with them often, and frankly, it is what it is. It's I won't say we're all personal friends, but you know, you get to know people that you work with frequently, and we try wherever possible to lay down this principle of respect in that relationship. The officer's job is much easier if there's some respect between the individual that they're interacting with and that officer. If they've been disrespectful in the past, if they've done something that the person disrespects, the officer's job just got twice as difficult. We encounter that particularly with people who come here from other communities. We get some really nasty responses from people we've never met before, never had a conversation with, but they had a bad experience with police someplace, and they transfer it to everybody who's wearing the uniform. And so we try to start fresh. We try to build that rapport and respect, and it is. You know, the principle of earning respect is something that our senior officers here pass down as a principle of how to do the job well. We had a detective who retired many years ago, and it was one of his fundamental principles. You know, these are people who may be a suspect today, but they'll be a victim tomorrow. There'll be a witness the day after that, and we have to build a foundation of respect if we can. And in many cases, we're working hard to do that. Sometimes we fail. So the history, you know, it's a part of the perspective, but we really do try to start fresh with somebody.
So as a kind of a follow-up to that, then what role, if any, does the police department, especially the officers, play in integrating those individuals back into the community that might have a criminal record?
Yeah, so a hot button issue for me. It's very difficult to stay out of trouble if you don't have a job. And the research is pretty clear. You need a place to live. You need some, you know, very basic subsistence. You need to pay your bills, and you need to eat. It works best if you have some connection to the local community, if you know people face to face. And then finally, a job. And increasingly, our folks coming out of prison face real barriers in employment. And I'd encourage you to think about prison the way we've learned to think about addictions. You know, the person who, the person before addiction treatment is not necessarily the same employee as someone after addiction treatment. Somebody who's been through an addiction treatment experience and charted a new course in their life can be a tremendous employee and provide great value to the community. And the same is true of somebody who's been to prison. The arrest experience is intended to create an opportunity to chart a different course. And I believe as a community, we have to find a way to support people who want to turn their lives around and head in a different direction. And I'm increasingly concerned that society, none of us individually set out to make that person fail. But as a society, it's more and more difficult for them to find their place, start fresh, and show us the person that they want to be. So we try to support that where we can. You know, we have officers who have advocated for jobs for people. I've advocated for jobs for people. And yet we're swimming upstream on that topic, and so I think there's a lot of work to do to address that.
two more questions and then I will conclude our meeting. But one is, you talk about recruitment of officers. What is the average salary? And then with the officers that we currently have in the Ames Police Department, about how many of them actually live in our community, if you know that?
So I should have the salary in front of me and should run the recruitment ad for you. Because we rarely talk about money, I really can't give you that. We do try to pay them well, okay? We try to support them, and that information is available online and is readily available. My conversations are about values. My conversations are about the service ethic. My conversations are about our expectations of them as they come in. And so, if I recall correctly, our initial starting wage is about just short of $60,000, and they progress through a scale up to, I believe, topping out and at about 80 for those that have been here several decades. And then the second part of that question, Jean?
About how many of them how many actually live in our community that live in Ames, or percentage wise, or?
Yeah, so we have a residency area, which is approximately Story County. We have a little slightly larger than that. And I can't tell you how many are formal residents of Ames. Many of them are, I'm guessing maybe a third or half. We've got a few who live on an acreage or rural property, or in the vicinity of Ames in a smaller community. We have some who have spouses commuting into Ankeny or Des Moines. So there is a tendency for those folks to kind of split the difference. But they live close enough and they spend time with us in a way that we expect them to be connected and to feel a part of the community.
Okay, thank you. At this time in our program, we'd have you sign a book, but we don't do that virtually. So I give you my heartfelt thank you for coming on. I know it was on the tails of something that you just did on Thursday night. So I encourage all of our Rotarians to, if you haven't, get involved, especially with the local chapter of the NAACP. On that first slide, you see Edna, who's the president, Edna Clinton, and she's just a phone call away, or if you know Wayne, you could reach out to him as well. But I encourage you to get involved. I encourage you to stay connected, and I encourage you to continue to ask the questions. There were a few other questions that we didn't get to today, so I know that there's high interest in this topic, and we want to continue to have this conversation. So in the last few weeks, my quotes for the day have been trying to be positive, but I kind of made it a little bit lighter this time, but I think it's still very positive and it's prevalent. So bear with me on this one. Unless someone likes you, cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Dr. Sue from Lorax. So as we finish our day and we think about what the chief has shared with us, and we think about our own individual connection with individuals in the community who don't look like us, or don't have the same religion as us, or don't have the same economic advantages that we have, I want you to, with your heart today, I know you do it every day or every week, but help me recite the four-way test and think about this, the words that this really truly means. In all that we think, say, or do, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial
to all concerned?
If we lived every moment of our life following the four-way test, what a wonderful world it would be. I'll see you next week. Everybody have a great week, a safe week, and enjoy the sunshine.